I'd like to share an article that I've read today. Title of the article is Bruce Lee's daughter thinks Quentin Tarantino could shut up about her father's portrayal in the movie. Let me read the article and then I'll comment. Bruce Lee's daughter Shannon Lee is responding to director Quentin Tarantino's latest comments regarding her father's portrayal in the film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He could shut up about it, she told Variety when asked how Tarantino could rectify the controversy. That would be really nice, or he could apologize, or he could say, I don't really know what Bruce Lee was like, I just wrote it for my movie, but that shouldn't be taken as how he really was. Tarantino recently defended his depiction of the Asian American martial arts legend portrayed by Mike Moh as an arrogant blowhard. Bruce Lee was kind of an arrogant guy, Tarantino said at a recent press junket in Moscow. The way he was talking, I didn't just make a lot of that up. I heard him say things like that to that effect. If people are saying, well, he never said he could beat up Muhammad Ali, well, yeah, he did. Not only did he say that, but his wife Linda Lee said that in her first biography I ever read. She absolutely said that. Not the case, Shannon Lee says. One of the things that's troubling in his response is that on the one hand he wants to put this forward as fact, and on the other hand he wants to stay in fiction, she added. Lee said that her father's confidence could be mistaken for arrogance and does not call him a perfect man. However, she noted that the kind of criticism Tarantino draws on is one that she has heard before, primarily from other white men who were in martial arts and in Hollywood. The passage in his wife Linda Lee Cadwell's book, Bruce Lee the Man Only I Knew, that Tarantino appears to refer to is a quote from a critic who wrote that those who watched Bruce Lee would bet on Lee to render Cassius Clay senseless, and not from the author himself. Clay was later known as Muhammad Ali. Tarantino can portray Bruce Lee however he wanted to, and he did, Shannon Lee said, but it's a little disingenuous for him to say, well, this is how he was, but this is a fictional movie, so don't worry too much about it. Bruce Lee's protege and training partner Dan Insano also rejected the idea that Lee would have bragged about being able to defeat Muhammad Ali in a previous interview with Variety. A former TV host and current executive producer of Climax Warrior, based on the TV treatment Bruce Lee wrote, Shannon Lee is the caretaker of her father's estate and charity foundation. Lee was returning from a trip to Hong Kong where she had been working with the Hong Kong Heritage Museum on refreshing its Bruce Lee exhibit and expanding a martial arts summer camp program when she heard about Tarantino's response to criticism about the film's portrayal of her late father. I just wanted to share that article, and I'm definitely on the side of Shannon Lee and the protection of Bruce Lee's reputation. Siding with Shannon Lee and Dan Insano. This is the daughter of Bruce Lee, and Dan Insano was a student and a good friend of Bruce Lee, and they both are speaking against the portrayal of Bruce Lee in this movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Bruce Lee is a big inspiration to me, and what I could even say is that he has such influence on my life to the point where I could even look at him as a father figure, and it's almost like them portraying my own father in a negative light. And I think it's kind of like that for a lot of Asian Americans. They look up to Bruce Lee in so many ways, and for someone to make a movie that's so popular, and for everybody to watch, to pretty much just disrespect him and mock him and just kind of take away from his hard work and what he's accomplished, I think is wrong, and the thing about Bruce Lee is he pretty much like sacrificed his life to achieve what he achieved. You know, he is a legend, and in order to be a legend, you need to die at the peak of your um, career, the peak of your artistic expression, and that's exactly what happened to him. Even though Michael Jordan was a great basketball player, he's not a legend because he's still living and he's gone beyond his peak, and now he's heading towards old age. Same thing with Kobe Bryant and um, you know, a lot of these people, you know, even Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali himself, they have lived beyond their peak, and you see the decline in their physical abilities, and you see that they end up having to retire. But Bruce Lee never had to retire, and Bruce Lee, we never got a chance to see him get old and deteriorate. He died at the peak of his expression, of his artistic expression, and that's what makes him a legend. And he sacrificed his life to fulfill that. He worked his butt off for his entire life to accomplish what he accomplished. If you really read up on him and you really learn about him, you know that he overworked himself so much to the point where it ended up in his early death. So he put everything on the line to represent the highest level that you possibly can achieve in the martial arts expression. Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal and Chuck Norris and, you know, Jackie Chan and Jet Li and Donnie Yen and all these martial artists that are in film, they have all continued to live, and they have gone beyond their peak. So they're not legends, but Bruce Lee is a legend, and the legend needs to be protected. That's what he achieved. You know, that's what he gets. That's the benefit that he gets out of everybody else compared to everybody else for dying at that age that he died. Tupac could be considered a legend as well, and Rocky Marciano could be considered a legend. But you know, when you depict somebody the way that they did is wrong. It's something. It's not like it's a Mike Tyson story, and he, you know Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas, and then you know that he lost to Evander Holyfield, and then you know that he bit Evander Holyfield's ear. These are all facts, and these are all things that actually happened. And even though Mike Tyson was a great boxer, he did end up declining, and he ended up losing, and he ended up doing certain disgraceful things towards the end of his career, and those are all documented. And if they wanted to make a portrayal of him in that light, they can, because it's based on fact. But with Bruce Lee, it's not the case. Bruce Lee was never ever filmed losing a fight, or in any way, like he was never, his abilities have never been diminished in the way of how certain athletes have fallen down through time. Even Muhammad Ali himself lost several fights before he retired, and he didn't end graciously. But somebody like Floyd Mayweather, he never lost a fight. So for them, a boxing match, so for that, if they ever made a movie and they depicted him losing a match, that wouldn't be right, because it never happened. Pacquiao, a great boxer himself, lost some matches as well, and that's something that actually happened. So if they want to make a movie depicting him losing a match, then that's something that happened. But Bruce Lee, wasn't about combat sport, you know, and he was a martial artist, and he lived up to all the values of what a martial artist is supposed to live up to. And there's a lot of humbleness in him. Yes, there's confidence in him, and even if he was cocky, he has the right to be cocky because he worked so hard, and he would back up his words. Bruce Lee would be a person that backs up his words, so that's like Mayweather being cocky and then backing it up. You know, he has the right to be cocky because he backs up his words. But, you know, great boxers like Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali was very cocky. I mean, it's very well known in his interviews and hyping up the fight. He was extremely cocky. And you know, and he ended up losing eventually towards, you know, the end of his career. But Bruce Lee, this is all documented. This is all factual. But Bruce Lee was not like that. Bruce Lee, there's no interviews showing Bruce Lee being cocky. His movies is not showing him being cocky. You know, and as I stated, even if he was cocky behind closed doors, he had the right to be because he was undefeated, you know, just like Mayweather, but in life. Not in the boxing ring, but in life. He was undefeated. You know, just, you know, he was very, very good at what he did, you know, and he deserved that to have confidence in himself. And he's at that level. You know, if Mayweather and Rocky Marciano could be perfect in the boxing ring, then Bruce Lee would be a representation of somebody who was perfect in life, in his expression in the martial arts. And he has no right, Quentin Tarantino has no right to diminish that in his expression. You know, when you see how perfect Bruce Lee's choreographed fight scenes are in his movies, he makes them perfect. You see his body in the movies and how ripped he was and how amazingly athletic he was. And you see how fast he was. You see his technique. I mean, everything was just so on point. He was perfect at what he did. You know, and there is such a thing as perfection. You know, like such a thing as getting 100 out of 100 in an exam over and over again. Such a thing like Mayweather having a flawless, like no losses in his record. And Rocky Marciano, same thing, and other boxers out there who have achieved the same thing. There is such a thing as perfection. And in my eyes, Bruce Lee achieved that, and then he died at the peak of his expression, and that's what turned him into a legend. You know, and having so few Asian Americans to look up to in Hollywood, and then have somebody like Quentin Tarantino come down, make this Hollywood blockbuster hit, and then diminish this person's achievements. It's not right, you know, because Bruce Lee doesn't deserve to be treated that way, you know. And it just shows a lot of what the type of person this director is when he doesn't even consult with Bruce Lee's own daughter before portraying, you know, her father on film. You know, like, that's already showing something that's wrong. You know, you could at the very least speak to the daughter who is in control of the Bruce Lee estate and who is the actual blood, you know, child from this legend. But he didn't even bother to do that. and he actually wrote the script to have Bruce Lee lose in the fight scene, and then it took Brad Pitt to convince the director, Quentin Tarantino, to not allow that, because Brad Pitt had a lot of respect for Bruce Lee, and he didn't want Bruce Lee, the person that portrayed Bruce Lee, to lose in a fight for this movie. So he had to convince Quentin Tarantino to not do that. And I respect Brad Pitt, and for doing that and standing up for that, and this is just, it's just not right, and it takes people to speak up against it, and thankfully Shannon Lee is speaking up against it, and if Brandon Lee was alive, then I believe he would speak up against it as well. But unfortunately Brandon Lee's not here to speak against it, so other people had to speak up against it, and how to protect Bruce Lee's reputation, to protect this person that a lot of people in this world might even look up to as they look up to a god, or how some people might look up to Jesus. It's like, you're taking a person that's a real person, that's actually lived and breathed, and not just lived thousands of years ago, but he just passed away a little bit over 50 years ago, and it's not right for you to make up these false things about this person and then think that that's okay. I mean, if this director, if he put himself in the shoes himself, if somebody else made a movie and then portraying Quentin Tarantino to be some type of criminal when he wasn't, that wouldn't be right to him, and that wouldn't make him feel good. Like, you're trying to make Bruce Lee out to be somebody that was subpar, somebody that was not that talented, somebody that was just another human, and he wasn't just another human. If he was just another human, people wouldn't know him as Bruce Lee. He worked so hard at what, and everything that he accomplished. He worked so hard. He wasn't just another human. You can't diminish somebody's hard work by just saying that, oh, he's just human, so we're going to show the human side of him. That's not right, because the human side that you're trying to portray is not even fact. It's not even real. You're portraying an imagined side of him, of which is not fact. So you're basically lying about him in a negative way. And there's been so many great people that's ever lived that's accomplished great things, such as Martin Luther King Jr. We even have a national holiday for him. Now imagine if they made a movie disrespecting Martin Luther King Jr. and his accomplishments. That's not right. And like, I think when they do that to a Chinese American, somehow it's acceptable, because there's not that many Chinese Americans out there that are going to stand up and say anything about it. But if Quentin Tarantino did that to Muhammad Ali and his depiction of Muhammad Ali, I think there'd be a much bigger backlash, because it seems that Chinese Americans are not really very much protected out there, especially in Hollywood, and their portrayal of them. And Shannon Lee speaking up, and for her father, and not just that, but it's supposed to be, speaking up, standing up for the Chinese Americans out there that are being mistreated, misrepresented. And I want to put positive videos out there, but this has been on my mind over and over again, and I've been reading articles on this over and over, and I don't want to create controversy. I don't want to be critical. I don't want to be judgmental. And I don't want to be upset. But there's a reason why I'm compelled to say something. When I see something that's being done that's not right. And it's like Shannon Lee refusing to say something about it, but she's not. She's saying something about it. That's her father. And not just that, but people that admire him, he is like our father figure. And what they're doing to his legacy is not right. And people should say something about it. And that's what happens when you're in a position of power. You're a director with millions of dollars, and you have all this power to influence people. You could create a movie and have millions of people watch. It's very important that you do your research properly, that you do portray people the way that they should be portrayed, according to truth. If you're going to make a fictional movie based on something that's false, because Brad Pitt's character was false, but Bruce Lee is not false. This is a real person. So, to diminish a real person's achievements in his life and, base it on not anything that's factual, it's just not right. As I stated, there's other great people out there that's accomplished great things as well, and they've come to times in their lives when they've failed. Such as Muhammad Ali losing fights, Mike Tyson losing fights, Pacquiao losing fights. They're great boxers, but they all lost. And once again, I say Mayweather never lost. Marciano never lost. And Bruce Lee never lost either, because he never competed in those things. And he was a martial artist. And a martial artist, he's supposed to remain humble. And Bruce Lee was confident, and he was humble too. And he studied Muhammad Ali's movements and his skills. He admired Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, he learned a lot from Muhammad Ali. He would watch videos with Muhammad Ali all the time and pretty much copy Muhammad Ali's style. And in his books, they asked Bruce Lee, like, can he beat anybody in the world? And Bruce Lee said, you know what, like, I don't know about Muhammad Ali. I don't know if I can beat him. He said that about Muhammad Ali. And if you watch the interview with Bruce Lee, they asked him, like, how good are you? And then Bruce Lee said, well, if I say that I'm good, then you say that I'm cocky. If I say that I'm not good, you know that I'm lying. That's what he said in the interview. I mean, these are all facts out there. This is the fact. But then Quentin Tarantino's making a movie. He's not putting out the truth. He's putting out false information about Bruce Lee, and that's not right. It's like people trying to make a movie portraying Mayweather to be a loser, to lose a boxing match, and then portray him and accuse him of being a cocky person. Well, the reality is he never lost a boxing match. The reality is, if he's cocky, well, he might have been cocky for a reason, to maybe hype up the boxing match to make better sales. But the fact of the matter is, a person that is undefeated has every right to be cocky because he's undefeated. And what I'm saying is Bruce Lee was undefeated, and he died undefeated. So even if he was cocky, he has every right to be cocky. But once again, the real life of Muhammad Ali, we know him. We have him on camera multiple occasions being extremely cocky. But he was still considered one of the best boxers to ever live. And yes, he did lose a few matches towards the end of his career. but he has respect of so many people out there, and that's who he was. That was Muhammad Ali. But Bruce Lee was not Muhammad Ali. Bruce Lee was not a cocky person. Bruce Lee never lost. And even in his movies, he barely gets hit in his movies. And he was a perfectionist. A perfectionist so much to the point of when you watch his movies, you see the perfection. So for them to make a movie and portray him to be somebody that's imperfect, not that good, cocky, arrogant, kind of like a foolish martial artist, that's completely false and it's wrong, for them to do that. So I wanted to speak out against that. And I don't like talking about these things, but I think it's something that's important to at least mention. And I hope that people will seek for the truth. To do your own research on Bruce Lee. Read the books. Read his books. All of them. Watch his movies. And get the true picture of who he was as a human being and who he was as a martial artist. And that's all I can really say, and I hope that, Quentin Tarantino does apologize for what he did. And I hope that he does start to eventually realize that what he did was not right. It was wrong. And he should apologize to all of Bruce Lee's fans and apologize to Shannon Lee. That's the right thing to do. What he did was not right. So that's what I wanted to say for tonight. Everybody take care.